Hey class, this video is going to show a quick example of a while loop. It's the program that we did in class, and the problem statement states, write a program that prompts the user to enter two integers. The program outputs how many numbers are multiples of 3 and how many numbers are multiples of 5 between those two integers, and it is inclusive. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to create a new project. I've already created my parent folder and my program folder on my desktop. So let's verify Visual C++ is selected, empty project. I'm going to rename the project to multiples using camel case. I'm going to click Browse, and from Browse I'm going to go to my desktop. There's the parent folder that I created, and then there is the program folder. Select the program folder, click OK, allow Visual Studio to do its magic, add the source file, change the name of the source file to multiples.cpp, and now we're ready to rock and roll. Alright, so we always start with element number 1, which is the name it, data, claim it. Our application name is multiples.cpp, and our purpose is allow the user to input those two integers, and then we're going to output the number of multiples of 3 and the number of multiples of 5 between the two integers. And it's going to be inclusive, which means the start number and the end number are going to be included. Alright, so let's start with element number 2, which is our preprocessors. Alright, the first processor and the only processor that we're going to need is IO stream, because we do need to allow for user input and output. So we start with our syntax, hashtag include IO stream, and then we go to element number 3, which is the namespace. Using the syntax, using namespace, std. Element 4 is our constants, if we have any, and we don't. Element 5, now we need to initialize the main module. And that line of syntax is int main, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. Come down to the next line, open curly brackets. Inside the curly brackets, we do element number 6. Which is going to be declare our local variables. Alright, so we've got all integers, which is why we don't need IO manip. We don't have any strings, which is why we don't need hashtag include string preprocessors. So we're going to do an integer for the first number. We're going to do an integer for the second number that the user is going to input. We're going to do an integer for the multiples of 3. And we're going to do an integer for the multiples of 5. And then I also need an integer to hold a temp number that's going to be our loop control variable, and it also allows us to take the number, determine if the user actually put in a higher number first and then a lower number second, because we can't determine multiples unless the first number is lower and then the second number is higher. Alright, so that takes us to element number 7, which is our executable code with our comments. Alright, first thing we've got to do is allow the user to input the numbers. Alright, we're going to do a cout to prompt user. The prompt is going to be enter 2 integers. We're going to end the prompt, end the line, and we're going to bring it in. The first number they enter, we're going to put it in num1. And then the second number they type in, we're going to put it in num2. And the line with the semicolon, and the prompts, and take the cursor to the next line by ending the line. Now we're going to determine if the second number is larger than the first number. Determine if the first number that was input is larger than the second number. Is larger than the second. If it is, we got to put it in that temp folder. So that is with an if statement. So we learned the syntax for the if statement. We type if, open parenthesis, and we're going to look to see if num2 is less than num1. Close that parenthesis, come down to the next line, open our curly bracket, because what we're going to do if it is, we're going to take temp and assign it the value of num2. We're going to take num2 and assign it to the variable num1. And we're going to take num1 and assign it the value that is in now temp. And that will end that if statement. Now we're ready to initialize our variables that we're going to be using inside the loop. And those are going to be temp, which is going to be assigned the value of num1. We've got multiples of 3 that we're going to initialize at 0. And we have multiples of 5 that we're also going to initialize at 0 as well. All right, now we're ready to do the loop. And again, this is a while loop. And the syntax for the while loop is very simple. Start with while. And what is our test criteria? So this is our loop control check. Well, we're looking to see if we're going to do this loop while temp is less than or equal to num2. Well, what are we going to do? Well, let's start with that open curly bracket. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to determine if the numbers, where are our numbers of multiples of 3. Determine the multiples of 3. And again, this is where we modulate. And we're going to do another if statement. So every time we do a determine, we've got to do that if statement. If temp, when modulated by 3, is equal to 0. That means we can divide it by 3 and there are no leftovers. There are no remainders. If that's the case, then we're going to take multiples of 3 and add 1 to it. And that if statement, then I'm going to start another if statement that says, well, I got to end that line with my semicolon. That gets rid of that curly bracket and that red squiggly line under that curly bracket. Next, I'm going to determine the multiples of 5. To do that, again, we're going to do an if statement. If temp modulated by 5 is now equal to 0. If it is, we're going to take multiples of 5 and add 1 to it. That ends the if statements. End it properly with that semicolon. And now that we've determined all of the multiples of 3 and all the multiples of 5, we now need to take our loop control variable, which is temp, and add 1 to it to take it to the next number. And then that will end the while loop. Again, if you end it properly with the semicolon. Notice I'm just like you guys. I forget that semicolon at the end of every line pretty much every time too. Now we can output the numbers. All right, so we're going to do a quick cout, and I'm going to say the multiples of 3 between. And I'm going to output num1 concatenate and concatenate num2, concatenate another string of text, R, and then I'm going to output, not input, multiples of 3, and end the line. And then I'm going to do a cout, multiples of 5 between the first number, which is num1, concatenate, and the second number, which is num2, R. And then I'm going to output the variable that is holding those numbers, which is multiples of 5 and the line. Now I'm ready to do element number 8, which is pause the window. That's that system pause that we use. Semicolon, and then we're going to end the module, which is return 0. And then finally, element 10, and the program. Just in case, this is element number 9, and the program. Now, we're able to save, and when we run the program, we'll quickly see, enter the integers, and I'm going to do integers, my two integers of 10 and 20, and I now have 3 multiples of 3 and 3 multiples of 5. And if I run it again, this time putting a larger number in first, I should get the same results. Alright guys, this is the example of a while loop. In the next video, we'll do an example of a do while loop. Alright, talk to you soon.